Hey, you guys, thanks for listening in to this episode of Tips with T. On today, I have Mr. Russell with us. Hey, Mr. Russell, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. So tell us more about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So I'm a USA Today best-selling author of magic, mythology, and monsters, and I run a company called Wannabe Press to that end. And then I also have a uh, training academy and marketing agency called The Complete Creative that helps creatives build better businesses.
Awesome, awesome. I know right now, during this time, you are teaching a lot about doing virtual summits. So how can we create those? What are those to help boost our business?
Sure. So a virtual summit is very much like an offline convention. It's a group of creators who are or anyone in one industry who are joining together to give a series of talks. Could be over a week or a month, or in my preference, over the course of a day or 2 days live. And the great thing about virtual summits is that for very little money, you generally no money or very little investment, you can get a very big return. So in our last summit, we had zero marketing money. And we still got 800 people on our mailing list, 800 new people on our mailing list. The one before that, we got about 700. The one before that, we got about 100 people on our mailing list. And that's because all of the guests that you bring on are using their mailing list and their social media presence to funnel into your channel and onto your mailing list. So you can do this for pay, and you can get paid for it if you would like. I generally prefer to do them as free as possible so I can get the most exposure as possible.
Awesome, awesome. So, why during this time do you feel like virtual summits are so important to help us build and brand our businesses?
You've got a lot of people with very little, we got a lot of businesses with very little money, trying to figure out how to move around in this landscape. Got a lot of people trying to figure out what the next step is. Got a lot of people that are nervous and scared, and they're turning to places for your for expertise and for leadership. And if you can provide that leadership, you're a very good chance of making fans for life. So I believe in taking advantage of opportunities whenever you possibly can, and you know they're very easy to put together. Not I mean, they're not super easy, but like, for instance, you have a podcast, I have a podcast, lots of people have podcasts or YouTube channels, and if you're experienced in doing a podcast, you can sort of port that over into doing a virtual summit, and with it's not no work, but the skills of interviewing people and having the right equipment and all of those things that you need to be the host of a virtual summit, you generally get from being a podcaster or being even a guest on podcasts. It's also a great way for people who just want to guest and don't want to run a summit to find ways to get in front of new audiences. And that's what the whole game is, not just now, but even when things are great. Your job is to get in front of new audiences and service the fans you have. So you can't make a business without growth. And because every company, no matter how good it is, will churn about 10% of people every year.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not bringing 12% or more new people into your year, you're going to shrink. And eventually you're going to be too small to actually effectively run your company profitably.
Mm-hmm. So far, how have you used the virtual summit to build your brand for your business?
Sure. So I've run three. The first one was called WannaCon. It was specifically for Wannabe Press creators. We brought in a bunch of creators that we respected or who had worked on our books to really do like our own sort of branding summit. And it was about 4 hours each day. We just talked to the creators and hung out with them and asked them questions and took questions from the audience. And so that really helped build the brand of Wannabe Press and got us involved with the creators who were with the creators who were most impactful for our brand. Secondarily, we have I ran a online writers conference at the onlinewritersconference.com because I service a lot of writers, and that helped us meet a whole ton of new writers and get in touch with a whole bunch of industry experts and leaders who we could bring in to, make us make us look like we're an important brand in the industry. And then the third one was Alt FCD, which was for comic book creators and fans. And we were able to curate a whole bunch of a great experience for comic creators for our complete creative business and fans for wannabe press fans, and sort of refill all of our coffers. And, it took an effort. But I think I spent across all three of those conventions $200 total.
Mm-hmm.
And in return, we got thousands of people on our mailing list, tons of goodwill, and the proof of concept that we could now charge in the future, which is also important.
Well, so that's awesome. So basically, some of the benefits for hosting these events is building up your potential clientele and getting those clients that you probably need, building up your mailing list. So that's good that they are multiple benefits from hosting these type of events.
Yeah, I really like to only do something if it has multiple leverage points and can do multiple things for my business, and the more the better. I've always felt that in-person conventions were quite beneficial in the fact that you made money, you could network, and you can build fans all at the same time. And so you can do all three of those things also with a virtual summit. The pay part is the part that is the hardest, right? So I try to keep costs down so I could do them for as free as possible, because my main focus is reach. But when we rerun the Online Writers Conference, or we rerun Alt FCD or something, we will have some sort of pay component. Or if I were to do one moving forward, the first ones, when you're running the first one, I don't like to have a lot of stress, and running things is stressful. So I say, just try and keep it as low cost as you possibly can. I use StreamYard to host mine, and then and pretty much I paid Wix Logo Maker to make me to make a website for to make a logo, and I already had a website, so I just used a page from my website and sort of made the designed it so that it would work for the purposes of this convention, and pretty much 3 conventions for $200. And then I learned everything that I needed to know. I learned how to conduct to get the people that I needed, and now I can go and I put a lot of goodwill out there. So now I can go, and when I'm designing more things, I can say, well, this is how we should do it now to actually make money on it. But the first time, I think that, unless you have a name already, it's hard to get people to pay for stuff, right? So I try really hard to make to put things out into the community for out of goodwill, with very little output of cost. That's my big concern. And then as time goes on, if things get more popular, or I can prove that I can run it as well as I think I can run it, at that point I can charge. At that point I can bring people in and charge whatever I'm going to charge for admission. But I don't like to do that the first time, because nobody knows what you're going to get. So if all I get for the initial try of that is basically a little bit of my time, or a lot of my time, but some amount of my time, very little investment, and I get to conduct interviews and be seen by industry experts as someone that is important in the field. There's a lot of value in that, and I think that people discount that value, which they don't seem to discount the value of being on podcasts or hosting podcasts. But for some reason, doing the same thing in virtual summit form seems to be well, that is its own thing that I should be making money on. And I'm just not sure that's true. I'm not sure that it's the friction point is money. The most people's friction point is money. So if you can take out the friction point and then let people experience something for free, then you're more likely to build more goodwill and get a bigger audience that will buy from you later. Now, is that always the case? No, it's not always the case. And maybe your summit sucks, or maybe you're targeting the wrong people who have no money, or I don't know what the thing is. But for me, I was not comfortable at the beginning running these summits for money, because I wasn't sure how good they would be. I had a theory of how good they would be, but I didn't want to add to the stress level by adding money into it. And I think that if you want to, that's fine. I'm more power to you if you can figure it out. But there is tons of value in doing something like this, whether it's for a group of podcasters or a group of dentists or a group of whatever, so that you guys can build your name, build your mailing list, get new clients, get clients for the future, and really, get to the next level. My whole thing about like doing anthologies or doing just about anything that I do is about finding like-minded groups of people to band together so that we can all like rise to the next level. Mm-hmm. And it's something that for podcasters and for a lot of industries, they don't understand how to like take their small audiences and make them a big audience. And I'm very good at like taking a bunch of small audiences and amalgamating like a really big audience out of that. And there is a huge value in that kind of skill and that kind of ability when you're running a virtual summit, which is just a couple of things that it can do for you. I'm not saying that is the thing that you needed to do, but whether you are charging or you're doing it for free, there are a whole bunch of benefits to bringing a bunch of like-minded people with different sized audiences together into one place.
Awesome. So how can we get people engaged into wanting to partake in our virtual summits?
Well, it's really about the guests that you line up. So, you're going to people in your audience are already going to know you. So you want to really find out who is going to be most exciting for them to hear. And like, it has to be in your industry, right? Like, I'm not saying go get Rihanna or like go get like Destiny's Child or go get John Bon Jovi or whatever. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm saying like who in your industry that you're going to be reaching out to. Like, you're going to be making a virtual summit about something. It might be podcasting. It might be beauty secrets. It might be video, like whatever it is. It might be dental work. It might be like woodworking. Whatever the thing is, you're going to make it. And like the people that are in your audience now, as small as they may be, are going to like have people that they'd really want to hear from. Mm-hmm. And then you can reach out to those like high level guests and be like, hey, I'm doing this virtual summit, and you really need to get one first. So how I like to do it is I like to think of it as I want to have a couple of really high level A-list guests, and I need one. And once one comes, then the other ones are easy. Everyone after that is aggregately easier than getting the first one. Mm-hmm. And usually the way to get the high level guest is to have some really good subject matter guests. Mm-hmm. So when you're designing the flow for a virtual summit, you want to have, your flow. Like, let's say you're doing woodworking and like your things about like how to construct a table. I don't know, like, you have sanding and varnishing and like all of these different spots and that you're going to be doing interviews. Well, often these subject matter experts that you bring in for varnishing or whatever are going to be people that the big guests already know because they're in the same industry, they run in the same circles. Mm-hmm. So often what's the best thing to do is start with some like really well-respected subject matter experts, but that don't have a huge audience. And by doing that, you can then leverage that into getting your big guest. And that one big guest then will help you get more subject matter experts and help you bring your second guest and your third, on and on and on and on until you have your whole thing. And those big guests then, and subject matter guests are all going to be driving additional traffic to your site for this virtual summit and make you seem like, more of an expert than you may or may not be. But it really starts with often getting that first person to commit. And sometimes that person is usually you have somebody in your network that like would be a perfect guest, but may not be a huge name guest, but is probably well respected in your industry. Everyone has that just because like you run in certain industries and like you just happen to know people. And like some of those people tend to be more important than other people. And like maybe you're friends with one of those people. And that's a good way to sort of start building out what a virtual summit would look like. But you want to have at least sort of the branding and the idea before you even reach out to people, because you don't want to be like, I'm thinking about doing this virtual summit. I know you're a really well-respected name in your industry. Can you like just come on to this thing and we'll figure it out? You want to be like, here's what I'm doing. Here's the branding. Here's the website. Here's the web page on the web. It doesn't even have to be its own website. It can just be like a page on your website that you have designed as like an opt-in page and that has the guests you're going to have. And like, here's what we're going to do. Are you interested?
Mm-hmm.
And once you get one, you know, you'll probably have a list before you even reach out of like your the guests you've booked, the potential guests, and your hopeful guests. So you're going to sort of make this big chart and then just start reaching out to people. And, you know, maybe half of them will say yes, or 20% will say yes, but those 20% will lead you to more people that will say yes to you. And before long, you'll have a day, you know, a 1-day event or 2-day event that will lead people flow through, and you have and the people that are in that group will get your fan base excited, and they should get other people that are like your fan base excited because you've helped build this virtual summit with them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So thank you so much for those tips, Russell. I'm definitely going to look into it, do the research myself. So, but tell us how we can contact you to get in touch with you if we would like to, and I'm going to share your social media handles.
Awesome. So I'm at Russell Nohelty on all social media handles. I also have a podcast called The Complete Creative, which has almost 200 episodes, and we interview creators about how they built and sustained their creative business. If you want to specifically learn more about virtual conferences, then you can do that at thecompletecreative.com/virtual conferences. And I have put a 10,000 word blog post out that shows people basically everything that I learned doing these 3 conventions, and it's completely free. No even opt-in required.
Awesome. Awesome. So you guys take advantage of these free resources that's being given. And if you guys want to get in contact with me, you can call me. My number is 910-317-0396. You can email me at contact@mjfinancial.biz. You can visit me on my website for a consultation, and you can find this episode on Anchor, you guys. And you can also find this episode on my YouTube channel on MJ Financial Management. So thank you again, Russell, for being a guest on the show today and sharing your tips on how we can do a virtual summit.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too. And all right, you guys, we will see you on the next episode of Tips with T.